Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Start of March, start of a brand new month of pens in use. The theme for this month, it was actually suggested by a viewer about a year ago. It's been sat there on my pile, and he suggested using the idea of theming my pens around Marvel heroes. Now, up till now, I didn't feel I had enough pens to do that, but I was quite happy to actually look at that this month because I think the pen selection is there and I'm really looking forward to using it. So join me now down on the mat. Let's take a look. What are the heroes that I've picked and what are the pens and inks that I've picked to represent them? Welcome down to the mat. So let's start looking at what superheroes and which pens I'm going to use to try and represent them. We're going to start off with what I think is a humorous superhero, and that's Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. And what I thought I'd use to represent Groot is this pen here. This is a handmade pen. I think it's a kit pen that they've made this wood there. The wood is called golden sassafras. The pen was made in Australia, in Tasmania actually, and I thought to myself, yeah, I can see that being Groot. If we take a look at the pen, it's got a long and very thin section, gold coloured. If I open this up, it's got a cartridge converter. It's what I call a push-pull one, so it's where you push it down and put it back up. I may try replacing that for a screw converter, but I'm not sure because at the moment this works fine. It's all metal. You couldn't even think about eyedropper in this. It is fairly cheap looking. It was cheap. It was 20 Aussie dollars. I think it was good value for what I paid. I love this golden sassafras, and I love the way the gold really highlights that. So we're going to have here what I call is a golden, make sure I spell this right, sassafras. It's got a fine nib. As I said, I paid 20 Aussie dollars, bought it off eBay. At the top of each of these, I'm going to write the name of the hero. So this one is Groot. The ink. Well, I thought we've got a wooden pen, we've got a wooden character. So the ink I've put in here is by Dominant Industry. And it's Forest. If this runs out partway through the month, I may refill this with a Diamine ink, maybe something like Sherwood Forest or Woodland Green, something like that. I've got a number of, these foresty type inks, which I may look at. Let's look at drying times. We go immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, that's dry. I actually do think this is a nice wet combo. Please bear in mind, we're still in the middle of summer here in Australia. It's still hot, and I do know that the heat affects the paper and it does affect the drying times. So just be aware of that. So this is the golden sassafras with Dominant Industry Forest. So hero number 2. You may argue, well, he's not a hero. He starts off as a baddie. He works for, I think it's Galactus, but over time he does evolve and sees the errors of his ways and becomes a hero. And that's the Silver Surfer. I know not a lot of people have heard of him. Where I first encountered the Silver Surfer was with the Fantastic Four. Now, the pen I thought for a Silver Surfer, I'm going to give it to this. This is the Parker Frontier. This is the longest pen. No, how can I best phrase this? This is the pen that I've had the longest. Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? I've had it since 2002. So it's a fairly old pen in terms of my ownership. The nib, certainly years ago, I wasn't treating it with as much respect as I do now. So I think the nib has been damaged a little bit. I have tried straightening it out and getting rid of all the little kinks that I could see. I may need to do more of that as the month goes on. As you can see here, the cap is very loose. And one of the things I've found with this is because of that, and I think because of the way the nib's been treated in the past, the nib dries out very, very quickly. Now, this is a cartridge converter. What I actually do with this is I've got here a Parker cartridge. That's what I use. I do have a Parker converter, but I think it's easier to fill a cartridge up there with a blunt nose syringe to fill it, put it in, give it a few minutes for the ink to go through, then it writes okay. And you get a lot more ink in that. Downside, it's a little bit more difficult to see what the ink level is. Let's pop that back together. So let's see if this writes. I did test it before I started recording. You see what I mean about how it dries out? Let me just scribble. There we go. I scribbled about half a line and it writes. So we've got here a Parker Frontier. Medium nib. Now, I've had it since 2002. Couldn't even tell you what I paid for. I've checked on a couple of websites. These sell for about 30 Aussie dollars. My hero, Silver Surfer. The ink is by Diamine. And it's Earl Grey. So the issue there that I had at the start of the day. So this is something I need to work on with this pen. I thought Earl Grey, we're talking silver. Yeah, it's not quite silver, but it's near enough, isn't it? So that's why I thought that's a nice one for the Silver Surfer. Drying times, so we got immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, again, it's dry. Remember the heat. So this is the Parker Frontier with Diamine Earl Grey for the Silver Surfer. Just move this up a little bit. Pen number 3. Well, the hero is Hulk. The pen, there was only one pen that could represent the Hulk, and this was actually the first one that I picked. It's the Ranga Model 5. So we've got the greens, the Hulk turning green. Got bits of grey. We've got bits of black. From memory, and this is just from memory, when the Hulk comics were first released, the Hulk was meant to be grey. Why they had to turn him green, it was to do with the printing process. It just couldn't handle all the greys well enough, so they had to use a different colour. So that's why I'm glad I've got a bit of grey in there. I can remember watching The Incredible Hulk when I was a kid. It's one of the first superheroes that I really got exposed to on TV. There was the Hulk. There was also Spider-Man. I don't know if you can remember, certainly if you're old like me, sometime in the late 70s, there were a series of Spider-Man movies. But the Hulk, again, Hulk and Spider-Man, when I was young, they were the two comics that I got. I got the Hulk and I got the Spider-Man. Eventually, they actually combined into one. And that's really where I got a lot of my exposure to Marvel heroes. So we've got here, let's put him already, Hulk. Again, going back, I'm only going back about 10 years. When the Hulk film came out in this current run, my grandson was about 2 or 3 years old. Couldn't pronounce Hulk, so he would call him Honk. So whenever we're talking about Hulk, we actually refer to as Honk. So we've got here a Ranga Model 5. Broad nib. Cost-wise was 142 Australian dollars. Normally I try to have 3 pens below 100 and 3 pens over. Just couldn't get that to fit this theme. And I thought it's best to have pens that I feel that fit the theme rather than trying to force a price range on it. The ink in here is by Oster. And I deliberately chose this. It's Tranquility. Why I chose this is for the Hulk to turn back to Bruce Banner, he needs to calm down. And I thought, well, what he needs is Tranquility. So that's why I thought, yeah, Tranquility. Perfect, isn't it, in here? Drying times. So we go a minute. No, we don't. That was immediate. Do you know, I'm jumping so far ahead of myself today. 10 seconds. That's nearly dry already. 30 seconds. Yep, dry at 30 seconds. So this is the Ranga Model 5 and Robert Oster Tranquility for the Hulk. Before fetching the next pen, I just thought I'd show you the mug I'm using for my tea today. There we've got Marvel. It's empty at the moment. There we go. We've got Hulk at the back. We've got a few of the heroes I'm using today on there. Pen number 4, hero number 4. I had a little bit of lateral thinking here to make this fit. So going back to the original comics, Iron Man, his uniform was yellow and red. Obviously, this next one is Iron Man. I also thought, well, Tony Stark, he lives that billionaire lifestyle, doesn't he? So he must go around swigging on champagne. So the pen I've got, it's like a burgundy rather than red. Let's pretend it's red, shall we? It's got gold and it's got champagne. It's the Pilot E95S. Love this pen. It's gold nibbed pen. 14 karat gold nib, there it is. All inlaid. And I've got to be honest, when I was looking at it, this is another one, like the Ranga, shouted to me, this is Iron Man. It's a small pen unposted. It's a pen to be used posted. Posts extremely well, just look at that. Nice and comfortable, nice size to use. So we've got Iron Man. This is the Pilot E95S medium. Price wise, 195 Aussie dollars. The ink in here, as you can see, is feathering ever so slightly already. This is a very wet combo. The ink is by Diamine and it's writer's blood. Now the pen, it is a cartridge converter. There we go. I don't use the converter that came with it. What I've got here is I've got a Pilot cartridge. Again, I eyedropper fill it. The problem with the converter is you've got the long end on it where you twist it. You can't actually see the ink level. That's why I thought, no, can't do that. I've got to use this. So all I do is I wash out this cartridge and I fill it with whatever ink I want to use. There's a fair bit of ink in here. I'm expecting this to run out during the month. I am going to change it. Not sure what I'm going to change it to yet. I may go for a complementary colour. I actually may go for just a completely different colour. Not certain. But I want to play with that. Let's look at drying times. I expect this to be very wet. So we go immediate. 10 seconds. Actually, look at that. That's nearly dry at 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds, that's dry. I expected that though. I mean, really, that 30 seconds, we didn't need it. It's nice to have it though for completion, isn't it? So this is the Pilot E95S Diamine Writer's Blood, representing Iron Man. The next hero that I've got is from the Fantastic Four, and it's Ben Grimm, or The Thing. And I thought this Leonardo Momento Magico in meal or honey, this was a good representation for The Thing. You know, we've got this orange colour there, which matches the orange of the stone that Ben Grimm seems to be made of. This one is a piston filler. Love the size of this piston window. I wish a lot of other pens would do a piston window the same. Let me just move this up so I can get into the centre of the camera. Just look at the way that, you know, I love looking at the ink in there. The nib on here is a broad. There we go, Leonardo nib. So we've got here a Leonardo. Just going to call it the Magico. The broad nib. It cost me 260 Aussie dollars. The hero is the Thing. Again, going back to comics that I read as a child, I do remember watching the Fantastic Four cartoon. I don't quite remember reading the comic. I might have done. I do remember watching the cartoon and the Thing going, "It's clobbering time." I used to love that. The ink in here, it's by Diamine. And it's, got to make sure I get this right, Blaze Orange. I keep wanting to call it Orange Blaze. I originally, when I was looking at the combos for this, I did think about actually putting this ink into another pen, and that would be for Johnny Storm, you know, the Human Torch. But then I thought, no, the orange and the Magico, that's a nice match. And the colours are very reminiscent of Ben Grimm, the Thing. Drying times. So there is immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Well, we're still wet. Let's go for the full minute. After a minute, still smudging ever so slightly. Not worth doing a 2-minute test though. So this is the Leonardo Momento Magico with the Diamine Blaze Orange for the Thing. So my final hero, or at least the final hero we're kicking the month off with. Again, this is, I would say, is more of an anti-hero sort of. You know, it's certainly a lot darker than a lot of the other comics that I remember seeing for Marvel. And that hero is Daredevil. You know, that the blind attorney by day and then that hero by night. The pen I thought that would represent Daredevil is the Waterman Carene. Very dark. I want to say amber colour. The actual colour is called marine amber, but it really reminds me of the colour of Daredevil's suit. I think it's really nice. We've got an, I believe, 18 karat gold nib on this one. There we are. So it's another inlaid nib, very similar to what we saw on the Pilot E95S. This one is a cartridge converter. There we go. There's the cartridge in there. All metal fittings. You know, not something you'd even think about eyedropping. Very nice fit in the hand. I like the unusual shape of it. To me, I say it just shouted Daredevil when I saw it. So we've got a Waterman, Carene, also a medium nib, 266 Aussie dollars, and it's Daredevil. If you watch the Marvel programs on Disney Plus, you'd have seen Daredevil recently in She-Hulk. I thought that was brilliant. I really enjoyed She-Hulk. I know it's one of those ones you've got to get used to, but I found it a really interesting program. The ink in here is actually the same one as the E95S. It's Diamine, Writer's Blood. I don't see as much feathering as I do with that Pilot E95S. The reason why it's the same ink is sometime during this month, hopefully before they run out of ink, I'm going to be doing a showdown between the two of them. And that's why I thought, let's get the same ink in both of them. So my aim is to record that sometime in the next couple of weeks. Not sure when it'll be released. It could be April or May time. Drying times. So we go immediate. Very similar, but look, slightly different tones, isn't it? 10 seconds. Seems to be wetter than what we were seeing with the E95S. 30 seconds. 1 minute. After a minute there, that's dry. So this was the Waterman Carene with Diamine, Writer's Blood, representing Daredevil. So these are the pens that I'm starting the month with. I do have pens in mind for Black Panther and Black Widow, so they're there. As these pens run out, I'll fetch that in. One of the ones I want to try and find a pen and ink combination I can use for Spider-Man. Got to be honest, Spider-Man is my favourite of all the Marvel heroes. Very personal choice there though, so I'd love to find a combo to fetch him in, but we'll see how it goes with that. So let's swap over and take a final look at our pens for March of 2023. So here we go, representing Groot, the golden Sassafras with dominant industry forest, the Silver Surfer, the Parker Frontier with Diamine Earl Grey, the Hulk, the Ranga Model 5 with Robert Oster Tranquility, Iron Man, the Pilot E95S with Diamine Writer's Blood, the Thing, Leonardo Magico with Diamine Blaze Orange, and Daredevil, the Waterman Carene with Diamine Writer's Blood. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your pens that you're going to be using this month? Have you got some pens that you could theme around a Marvel hero? Why not do that? Why not join me in using them pens this month? I think that'd be a really interesting way to kick things going. And one of the things I'm thinking about, if we get enough people that are using it, I'll set up something like either a Slack team or a Discord server where we can actually share comments and thoughts about them. So drop your comments down below. Is that something you'd be interested in? Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.